We're told the Grand Canyon is a geological timeline, a perfect record of Earth's past. But what happens when you find a page that doesn't belong? Long before cameras or drones mapped these walls, the canyon was hiding a secret. Deep in a remote sector, far beyond the safety of the tourist trails, investigators encountered an anomaly that shatters established history. It wasn't a fossil, and it wasn't a rock formation. It was an object bearing the fingerprints of intelligence, locked in stone that is millions of years old. It's a discovery that implies a terrifying possibility that the history of this place isn't just incomplete, it's wrong. Today, we are going to peel back those layers and show you what science wasn't prepared to find. Let's begin. Number 1, the broken timeline. The Grand Canyon as a time machine. Standing at the rim of the Grand Canyon never feels like simply looking at a place. It feels like looking into time itself. Mile after mile of carved stone stretches to the horizon, each layer exposed by the slow, relentless work of the Colorado River. Together, they form a vertical timeline, nearly 2 billion years of Earth's history laid bare, as if the planet itself were split open for examination. Every visible band is the fossilized memory of a different world. Ancient oceans that once covered the land, deserts that came and went, climates that no longer exist, life that rose, evolved, and vanished without leaving names behind. To geologists, the canyon is a textbook written in stone, a reference point used to explain how Earth became what it is today. But the true power of the Grand Canyon isn't just what you can see from the rim, it's what lies beyond it. Hidden caves cut deep into the canyon walls, invisible from above. Narrow, crumbling trails descend into silence, where sound is swallowed and light fades quickly. Entire sections remain unexplored, not because they lack interest, but because they are too dangerous, too remote, or too difficult to reach. Millions of people visit the Grand Canyon every year for the view, unaware that they are standing atop one of the most complete and most fragile records of Earth ever exposed. This landscape is not just scenery, it is evidence. An open archive where depth equals age, where every step downward is supposed to move backward in time. In theory, the deeper you go, the older the story becomes. Orderly, predictable, safe. But as investigators pushed further into the canyon, far below the postcard vistas, something became impossible to ignore. Certain layers didn't align. Some formations appeared where they shouldn't exist, and in rare, deeply buried locations, anomalies emerged that didn't match the timeline at all. As you descend deeper, the comforting idea of a perfect geological record begins to fracture. Because if the timeline is broken, if even one layer tells the wrong story, then everything built on that history becomes uncertain. Number 2, the Great Unconformity. The most unsettling thing about the Grand Canyon isn't what is there, it's what's missing. Geologists call it the Great Unconformity, a vast, silent gap in the rock record where nearly 1 billion years of Earth's history simply disappears. Entire ages that should exist between these layers are absent. No gradual shift, no slow transition, just stone and then much older stone beneath it, a clean break in time. To put that loss into perspective, this missing span covers a period when complex life was beginning to take shape on Earth. Civilizations would rise and fall hundreds of times over before a gap of that magnitude could form again. And yet here in the Grand Canyon, that time is gone, scrubbed clean from the planet's memory. Scientists have proposed explanations. One theory points to Snowball Earth, a catastrophic era when global glaciers may have encased the planet, grinding entire mountain ranges into dust and carrying their remains away. Another theory suggests those layers never formed at all, that conditions somehow prevented sediment from being laid down for nearly 1 billion years. But neither explanation fully accounts for what the stone reveals. Between the younger sandstone above and the ancient metamorphic rock below, there is no warning,
No erosion gradient, no intermediate layers, just a sharp, unnatural boundary, as if someone tore a page out of Earth's history book and stitched the remaining chapters back together. This isn't erosion as we understand it, it's deletion. Something immense, something capable of reshaping continents, erased time itself from the geological record. And whatever existed here before that erasure, whatever landscapes, climates, or structures once occupied this place, was wiped away so completely that only absence remains. Because before this desert was carved, before the canyon ever existed, this land was something entirely different, and whatever happened next ensured we were never meant to know what it was.
Number 3. The nautiloid fossil. One of the strangest sensations in the Grand Canyon is the realization that this dry, sun-scorched stone once held waves. That the silence echoing between the cliffs was once broken by tides. Pulled from the Kaibab Formation, a tightly coiled nautiloid fossil offers undeniable proof. A sea creature preserved in rock, discovered hundreds of miles from any modern coastline. At first glance, it feels wrong, out of place, almost impossible. Until the geology steps in. Around 270 million years ago, this entire region lay beneath a shallow inland sea. Warm, mineral-rich waters stretched as far as the eye could see, and the limestone layers towering above the canyon today once formed the ocean floor and its distant shoreline. Where desert wind now scours the rock, squids drifted, shelled creatures thrived, and life pulsed beneath the surface. But this fossil isn't just a curiosity. It is a holotype, the very first specimen used to identify and define an entirely new species. In science, a holotype is sacred. It becomes the fixed reference point, the anchor against which every future discovery is measured. This single fossil doesn't just represent a creature, it defines an era. It confirms that the Grand Canyon was once a living sea, long before sand and silence claimed it. Yet oceans do not last forever. As the waters slowly receded, the seabed rose, sediment hardened, coastlines vanished, the land emerged, transformed from ocean floor to solid ground. Plants followed, then animals adapted, and eventually life began to move in a new way. No longer drifting, no longer swimming, something began to walk. And once that transition happened, the story of this place grew far more complicated than fossils alone can explain. Number 4. The ancient inhabitants. Collapse in the Grand Canyon. Sometimes the Grand Canyon doesn't reveal its past patiently. Sometimes it tears itself open. In 2016, a massive section of cliff gave way without warning. Tons of rock thundered into the canyon below, sending shock waves through the silence and exposing stone that had not seen daylight in hundreds of millions of years. Events like this are rare, but when they happen, they act like nature's own excavation, stripping away protective layers in an instant. When the dust finally settled, Norwegian geologist Alan Krill noticed something that didn't belong in the chaos of broken rock. Pressed into the freshly exposed sandstone were markings that looked deliberate, patterned, repeating. They were footprints, delicate impressions preserved with startling clarity. To the trained eye, they were unmistakable and deeply unsettling. These were not cracks or erosion scars. They were tracks frozen mid-stride, as if the creatures that made them had only just passed through. Subsequent analysis confirmed the impossible. The footprints were left by two separate animals crossing a sand dune 313 million years ago. At that time, this region was a vast, arid landscape of shifting dunes, long before dinosaurs, long before mammals, long before anything familiar.
For eons, that dune hardened into stone, locking a single fleeting moment of movement into permanence. A walk, a pause, a crossing, and then time sealed it away. Gravity alone was responsible for revealing it. The collapse acted like a curtain pulled back, exposing evidence of life that had been hidden since before complex ecosystems dominated the land. But this detail unsettled researchers most. Those weren't the only tracks hiding in the sandstone, and not all of them matched what science expected to find.
Number 5. Salamander-like footprints and the controversy. Long before mammals ever existed, before forests took root or birds took to the sky, the Coconino sandstone was forming, layer by layer, from vast, wind-sculpted desert dunes. Today, those dunes have hardened into pale stone cliffs, and inside them lies one of the Grand Canyon's most contested records of ancient life. The rock is crowded with footprints, hundreds of them, thousands depending on where you look, slender, lizard-like impressions, salamander-shaped tracks with splayed toes and distinct stride patterns, frozen mid-movement as creatures crossed soft sand that would later turn to stone. To geologists, these tracks are unmistakable signatures of early land animals navigating an arid environment roughly 275 million years ago. But not everyone agrees. These footprints have become a battleground, not because of what they show, but because of what they imply. Some groups who reject established geological timelines argue that these tracks were not formed over deep time at all. Instead, they claim the animals were scrambling across sediment during a catastrophic global flood just 6,000 years ago, leaving their marks as rising waters overtook the land. Science reads a very different story in the stone. The orientation of the tracks, the consistency of stride lengths, the direction of movement, and the surrounding sediment structures all point to dry, wind-blown dunes, not underwater chaos. Ripple marks, sand avalanches, and track preservation align precisely with what modern deserts produce today. To researchers, the Coconino sandstone isn't evidence of catastrophe, it's evidence of stability, time, and repetition across hundreds of millions of years. What makes this controversy so powerful is that the canyon doesn't argue back, it simply holds the evidence. Side by side, the rocks present interpretations that collide: deep time versus compressed history, slow processes versus sudden disaster. The Grand Canyon doesn't just preserve landscapes, it preserves disagreements. It forces every observer to confront the same question: how do we read the past when the stone refuses to speak plainly? And while small creatures once left their delicate footprints in ancient sand, time was not finished reshaping this place. Because much later, during a far colder chapter of Earth's history, the canyon would witness giants walking its edges. Number 6. The Shasta ground sloth. The word sloth implies something slow, passive, harmless. That image collapses the moment you step into prehistory. During the Ice Age, the Grand Canyon was home to creatures that would be unrecognizable today. Among them was the Shasta ground sloth, a massive, powerful animal that roamed this region as recently as 11,000 years ago. Unlike its tree-dwelling modern relatives, this sloth stood upright, walked on land, and commanded its environment. These animals were enormous, thick-limbed, armed with long, curved claws built not for climbing branches, but for digging, stripping vegetation, and defending territory. Their South American cousins grew as large as elephants. The Shasta ground sloth was smaller by comparison, but still large enough to look a human in the eye. We know they were here because the canyon didn't just preserve traces of them, it preserved everything. Deep within dry, protected caves, researchers uncovered bones still in position, tufts of coarse fur, and most unsettling of all,
fossilized droppings known as coprolites, so well preserved that they still carry a faint organic scent. For over 11 millennia, the arid cave air sealed these remains in a natural time capsule, untouched by moisture or decay. These caves became archives of Ice Age life, recording what these animals ate, where they walked, and how long they survived before vanishing alongside many other megafauna. The sloths were giants, but they were also vulnerable. Climate shifts, human arrival, a changing world that no longer favored size alone. And yet, size is not what makes the past unsettling. Because while the canyon once echoed with the footsteps of giants, not every creature that thrived here was large. Some left no towering bones behind. Some hid in shadows, cracks, and caves. And some of the most enduring nightmares are small. Number 7. Pseudoscorpions. Fear doesn't always come in large packages. Sometimes it fits on the tip of your finger. Deep within a cave system explored between 2005 and 2007, researchers encountered something so small it was almost overlooked. At first glance, the creatures resembled scorpions, miniature alien shapes clinging to stone in total darkness. But something was wrong. No tail, no stinger, just silence, stillness, and movement where none should exist. What followed was 7 years of analysis. The conclusion was undeniable: an entirely new species. They were pseudoscorpions, ancient arachnids perfectly adapted to a world without light. Barely 2 inches long, they possess oversized pincers capable of delivering venom directly through their grip. No warning strike, no dramatic flourish, just contact and paralysis. Their bodies tell the story of extreme isolation: pale exoskeletons, elongated limbs, and no eyes at all. They are completely blind. In a place where sight is useless, evolution erased it. These creatures are not survivors of the surface world. They are specialists, apex predators of a microscopic kingdom, ruling cracks and caverns where sunlight has never touched the walls. Their ancestors may have retreated underground millions of years ago, becoming trapped and perfected by darkness. They remind us of something uncomfortable. Life doesn't just adapt to extremes, it thrives in them. And it is in that same darkness, those same caves, fissures, and protected spaces that another story begins. One not written in stone or bone, but in presence, in tools, in fire, in memory. Because long after blind hunters claimed the underground, humans arrived at the edge of the canyon. And unlike everything before them, they left stories behind.
Number 8. The Human Enigma, Cave of the Domes. Escape the crowds, and the Grand Canyon changes. The noise fades first, then the signage, then the sense that you're supposed to be here at all. The trail stops feeling like a path and starts feeling like a decision, one that quietly asks how far you're willing to go without an audience, without guardrails, without reassurance. That decision leads to the Cave of the Domes. Inside, the world tightens. Limestone domes rise overhead like frozen waves, sculpted by water and pressure over spans of time too vast to comfortably imagine. The air is cool and unmoving. Sound behaves strangely here. Footsteps echo longer than they should, and even breathing feels intrusive, as if the cave is listening. Light bends off pale stone and disappears into pockets of shadow that refuse to explain themselves. The walls tell a subtler story. Faint signatures, names, initials, dates left by visitors more than a century ago still cling to the rock. Evidence of people who entered this place before rules, before preservation laws, before the canyon became a destination instead of a boundary. Their marks feel less like vandalism,
and more like proof of presence, a quiet declaration that someone stood here, alone, and felt something they couldn't carry back with them. This cave doesn't overwhelm you with scale, it unsettles you with stillness. You don't simply enter the Cave of the Domes, you are absorbed by it. Time slows, direction loses meaning, and for a moment, it becomes easy to understand why humans have always been drawn underground, to shelter, to hide, to reflect, or to leave something of themselves behind. But not all caverns in the Grand Canyon remained untouched sanctuaries. Some were altered, reinforced, repurposed, and deeper underground, certain spaces were transformed into something else entirely.
Number 9. The Grand Canyon Cavern Hotel. Forget everything you think you know about a hotel. The Grand Canyon Cavern Hotel doesn't rise above the land, it vanishes into it. No skyline, no sweeping windows, just a doorway in the earth that leads straight down into darkness. The most famous suite sits 220 feet below the surface, carved into a cavern estimated to be more than 65 million years old, the largest dry cavern in the United States. This is not a place built on nature, it is a place hollowed out of it. When you descend into the cavern, the outside world shuts off completely. No traffic hum, no wind through trees, no distant aircraft. Sound doesn't echo, it dies. The rock absorbs it. The darkness is absolute, so complete that turning off the lights feels like closing your eyes on the universe itself. When you book the suite, you don't rent a room, you rent silence. The cavern was first developed as a curiosity stop along Old Route 66, designed to lure travelers off the highway and into the earth. Over time, it became something stranger, part attraction, part experiment in isolation. Sleeping here isn't about luxury or comfort, it's about presence, about confronting what it feels like to exist without time cues, without noise, without sky. Some people find it peaceful, meditative, a rare chance to disconnect from the surface world. Others don't last the night, because for certain minds, isolation doesn't feel like rest, it feels like exposure, like being buried awake with only your thoughts and the slow weight of stone pressing in from every direction. And for some, isolation isn't a vacation at all, it's a way of life.
Number 10. Supai Village. Follow the canyon deep enough and the roads surrender. You have to understand the scale of isolation here. To reach Supai, you don't just leave the interstate, you leave the 21st century behind entirely. Supai Village is the most isolated community in the United States. It is a place hidden so deep within the Havasupai Reservation that it remains accessible only by foot, hoof, or helicopter. It is the only place left in America where the mail is still delivered by mule train, a stubborn rhythmic reminder that modern logistics have no power here. 200 residents live in this caldera of silence, surrounded by towering red rock walls and turquoise waterfalls that look photoshopped against the dusty landscape. But do not let the aesthetics fool you. It's not just scenery, it's a fortress of geography. The sheer verticality of the canyon walls have protected this culture for centuries, creating a natural barrier that kept the chaos of the expansionist world at bay. Visitors come for the beauty, hiking 8 grueling miles through the heat, but they stay for the feeling of being in a place that the modern world hasn't quite figured out how to conquer. However, the history here runs deeper than the current residents. Long before the village was settled, other eyes were watching this canyon. High above the waterline, tucked into alcoves that seem impossible to reach without flight, there are traces of a presence that defy simple explanation. Ancient vantage points suggesting that this paradise was once a strategic holding for a forgotten chapter of history. Number 11. Horseshoe Canyon Petroglyphs, the Watchers. West of Green River, the landscape opens up into a scar in the earth known as Horseshoe Canyon. It is here, isolated by the heat and the dust, that we find the haunting legacy of the Barrier Canyon style. But to call this rock art is a disservice. These aren't simple paintings left by a passing nomad. They are deliberate, calculated carvings scratched violently through the desert's dark, oxidized patina to reveal the raw, light stone beneath. It is a high-contrast message meant to survive the erosion of time. The centerpiece is the Great Gallery. When you stand before it, you realize you're not looking at a mural. You are looking at a lineup. Life-sized, human-like figures, some towering over 7 feet tall, rise across the rock face in a spectral formation. They lack arms and legs, floating like torsos of shadow and spirit, with hollow eyes that seem to fixate on you. They don't look like decorations, they look like watchers. Remarkably preserved, these sentinels have stood guard over this canyon for millennia. They watched the rise and fall of civilizations, silent witnesses to a history we are still trying to piece together. They were built to watch the past, but for all their vigilance, they couldn't predict the invisible dangers of the future, because just miles from these ancient eyes, the modern world would bring something far deadlier than arrows or drought.
Number 12. The invisible danger. Uranium mining, the silent legacy. Nothing prepares you for the reality that the very ground beneath your feet might be weaponized. While the ancient petroglyphs watched the canyon for spiritual threats, modern industry introduced a physical one. Along the outer edges of this protected wilderness, uranium mining has left a history that refuses to fade. It began in the fervor of the 1950s atomic boom, where operations like the infamous Orphan Mine pulled high-grade radioactive material right out of the canyon walls. The terrifying part is the proximity. This wasn't happening in a distant desert. The Orphan Mine sat just 2 miles from the main tourist village on the South Rim. And here is the strategic oversight. Contamination does not respect park boundaries. Geology is porous. The uranium leaches into the soil, trickling down through the limestone layers and settles invisibly into the springs and aquifers below. The danger isn't dramatic. You won't hear a Geiger counter clicking as you walk the rim trail. It is patient. While millions of visitors stand at the railings, admiring the sunset and taking in the fresh air, unseen particles are moving beneath the surface, poisoning the water table that feeds the ecosystem. But radiation isn't the only silent threat waiting in the water, because if you follow that contaminated water down to the river, you might find something else lurking in the current. Number 13. The silent warning. E. coli and the Chiricahua leopard frog. The beauty of the Grand Canyon suggests purity. It tricks the mind into believing that nature here is untouched, pristine, and safe. But in the wilderness, beauty is often camouflage. Its reality does not promise purity. In August 2023, tests detected significant levels of E. coli bacteria in the water near the canyon floor, a blunt biological reminder that even crystal-clear streams can carry invisible risks capable of taking a hiker down. But while the bacteria is a threat to us, the water is signaling other distress calls that are much harder to hear. Enter the Chiricahua leopard frog. This species was once the dominant amphibian of these waters, a thriving part of the canyon's biological machinery. Today, it has vanished from over 80% of its historic habitat. Now, you might ask, why does the disappearance of one frog matter in a canyon of this scale? It matters because in ecology, as in warfare, you look for the sentinels. Scientists aren't just worried about the frog, they are terrified of what its absence implies. Amphibians are the first to fall when water quality degrades. When the most sensitive species begin to die off, it is a biological alarm.
a warning that the ecosystem itself is breaking down long before humans notice anything is wrong. The frog isn't just a casualty, it is a forecast. The Grand Canyon is more than a national park to be photographed. It is a geological time machine. It is a graveyard of giants, and it is a vault of secrets that we are still struggling to unlock. From the forbidden caves of Kincaid to the radioactive legacy of the Cold War, the canyon proves that the deeper you dig, the stranger the truth becomes. If this journey challenged what you thought you knew about the American West, let me know in the comments below. This is Signal 49. Thanks for watching.